Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
Today, we are celebrating Christmas with our holiday special for everyone. And this one is a great freaking issue. I loved this issue of Batman Adventures Holiday Special. I don't know why we hadn't done this one before. It's so obvious as a holiday special for Christmas. But I guess, you know, we just never thought of it. And they had the Hellboy ones that always came out every year and stuff. So, but had you heard of this one before or seen this one?
No, I hadn't, and I think that was one thing, like, you kind of reminded me more that, there's obviously, because they continue the animated series into the comics now as well.
Which is a fantastic run, by the way.
Yeah, I read the first, I think the first trade of it, and it was really good. And I want to read more because, yeah, again, the Batman animated series, man, I grew up on that. That's some of our bread and butter for, feeling nostalgic and reason we love Batman.
And it gave me my most expensive comic because I had the first appearance of Harley Quinn, which was Batman Adventures number 12.
That's right. Yeah.
And I sold that for a lot of money. But but I got the reprint of it for $2. So
you still have a complete run.
I still have a full run.
That was cool when you came across that. You're like, holy crap! I didn't even realize I had this. And
I was just randomly like watching a YouTube video, and the guy was like, "This is a Grail." I'm like, I have that Grail. Only guys like me have comics like that. Hey, I'm a guy like me. Yeah, and the best thing was I paid I think $1 for every issue of the run, so
hell yeah,
it was pretty sick. When I realized that, it was awesome. But anyway, so yeah, I was aware of this issue, but yeah, like it kind of gets overlooked, I think, because it is the Batman Adventures run, which is like the kids comics of DC during the 90s. And so, but I will say, if you guys haven't read the Batman Adventures comics, all of them, they even had like volume 3 that just came out over the last couple of years. That was also fantastic. I read all of those as well. So it is probably some of the better Batman comics of as single issues usually, It was exactly like the Batman Adventures show, where like kind of one and done great, single stories. There wasn't like... because at the time you had like 5 Batman books all connecting with big epic stories that lasted years. And that's cool. But like at a certain point, it's like, I just want to read a good story, like a good Batman comic.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to buy like 10 other Batman comics to understand what's going on. So this was like the greatest one coming out. That was like the easiest to get into, just pick up off the shelf. So yeah, I really liked this run, and I never read this issue out of the run because it is like a special. So I just kind of skipped it, I guess, when I read it the first time. Either that or it wasn't collected in the collections I read. But either way. So yeah, this one is great. It is written by, or a lot of the stories, I think either all of them or most of them are written by Paul Dini. A lot of the art is by Bruce Timm, and then a couple other people who do... I think like a lot of the art for the actual comic, and then some people that actually write for the show as well are on here too. So, it is a good like collection of people doing this stuff. So,
you're getting your money's worth, is what we're saying.
You definitely are, and everybody's on model. Everything's great. So yeah. Anyway, we start off on December 1st because this comic goes through all of December. So there's like a story for different dates of December. So December 1st, we get, Christmas season is just starting. We're at a mall and we see Barbara Gordon is shopping for ties for her dad for Christmas. And we see, she looks over because she hears a kid screaming at the Santa line. And she's like, man, that kid must be terrified. I wonder what's going on. And she looks over and she sees Bullock, who is he's a cop, but he's undercover right now as the Santa Claus. And we see next to him is Montoya, who Renee Montoya, who at the moment is just a cop that shows up on the show, I believe, and she's in the comics, but she later becomes the Question. So like now she's the Question. So she becomes that character. But as of now, she's just an elf sitting next to Bullock, and Bullock is being his slovenly self, eating donuts, burping. He's all stained. The kids are like, ah. It was very much like A Christmas Story where every kid is like yelling at the Santa. This made me laugh very hard. Did you like the intro of this?
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, Bullock again with his like multiple stains. So obviously he's been eating whatever on up there, and then I mean, think there's even a can of beer up on.
Yeah, they show him scratching himself. This is literally like Bad Santa level of Santa.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. And again, I think having that love and knowledge of the animated series and knowing that, yeah, this character is pretty spot on for being the, like you said, slovenly, grotesque, like detective. It's pretty fantastic to have him as like the Santa Claus in the mall undercover while they're doing whatever they're looking for.
Exactly. Yeah, so it starts off really good. We see amongst like Barbara and some of the other people shopping, there are some kids who seem to be pickpocketing and stealing things. And as one person catches them stealing, or catches one of the kids stealing something, she grabs his hand, and we see his hand come off like it's made of something not human. And so Renee Montoya gets the beat on this. She hears it in their intercom because they're undercover, so they have like earpieces, and she hears like, oh, there's like a bunch of kids that are pickpockets. We got to catch them. And so all these kids run into the center of this mall, and they all actually collapse into one another. And it turns out that they are different, like their Clayface split himself up into different kids, and now they've conglomerated into one big Clayface. And right as Renee goes to confront him, he's like, ho, ho, ho. So, yeah, it is. I thought this was like a fun little reveal here that it was Clayface. I mean, obviously, if you know who it is, but I thought, if you were a kid and you didn't know who Clayface was, it'd be pretty freaky to see like some kid's hand get ripped off, and you're like, what? Like, what's going on? And then like, you read that page, you're like, oh, that's fun. I will say the next page is actually something I've seen on the internet that I think is false, but I don't know if you've ever seen these pages or these this page of art. It is Barbara Gordon when she realizes that Clayface is there. She's like, oh, I got to change. I'm going to go into the dressing room and see how fast I can change into my Batgirl costume. Now, I've seen on the internet, there's pages of like if Bruce Timm drew this as her naked, so she's actually like not pulled, like the suit isn't pulled up far enough and you get to see like her chest or whatever, and other stuff too. And I'm like, I don't think that's real. I think it's been claimed false, but I think that's where that comes from, that meme or that legend or whatever.
That's interesting. I had not seen that. I could imagine like that, because people do that all the time with stuff or there's things they say over the years, this and that, and especially with animated and things that are for kids, there's always some lore or somebody, did something and it's like, oh, that's risque. And so either
you never know if it's going to be like Aladdin or like how they had that scandal for Disney in the 90s with like Sex in the Dust or whatever of The Lion King and whatever Aladdin said. And then of course King Trident's castle or whatever has a bunch of dicks on it. So like, yeah, like obviously that was going on at the time with certain people, but like that's not on the page here. And in fact, it seems like they would have to be extra panels because the ones I saw were like not any of these panels. So, either he drew extra panels and they were like as a joke or something. I don't think he did though. It doesn't seem very much like Bruce Timm to do that. He's never really done that before. So, but either way, I just wanted to comment that this is the page I think where that scandal came from, or at least originated from on the internet. So, yeah. Anyway, so she gets dressed. I also like how when she does get dressed, she's like, let's see Robin beat that, like, because she does it in like 48 seconds. So that was fun. There's like a little bit of competition between the Bat family kids. But yeah, so she runs out, and Clayface is fighting all the cops, and they're losing, of course, because how do you shoot a clay monster? Like, the bullets don't do anything. But right when he's about to chop them with an axe that he forms, Batgirl comes in and kicks him in the face, and actually kicks him out of a window, and he falls down into the ice skating rink, which has water. He breaks through the ice, and Batgirl is able to jump on the ice, but Clayface is slowed down, but not enough that he can't hurt her. And as he's about to hit her, they shoot, the cops see a Santa Claus above him, like an electrified Santa Claus sign, and they shoot that, and it falls, and it electrocutes Clayface. And yeah, I love how this one ends. We're like Batgirl's like, whew, that was close. Luckily, he's going to be taken care of. And then, but all like the stuff that was stolen is inside Clayface still. And then the cops realize, oh shit, we got to like dig through Clayface's body to get that stuff.
Yeah, and that's such a weird thing to think about. Like, it's like, yeah, they have to reach like in through the muck that is his amorphous body to get the stolen goods.
Yeah, it is one of those things. So that's like the first story of this, and then the second story takes place on December 17th, so a little bit closer to Christmas, and it is a Harley Ivy story. And in this story, I will say this is before they were ever considered to be a couple. Like, nowadays they are lovers, and they have a relationship romantically, but this is still when they're just kind of like bad girls that hang out together every now and then.
Just like partners in crime.
They get along together. They're friendly, but they're not like in a romantic relationship. Although I will say Harley, I just realized, is in like her underwear in this panel. So she's sitting on the bed with Harley, or with Ivy, who's not in her underwear, but is in like a crop top, we'll say 90s crop top shirt or whatever. So I like it's long sleeve, but it's also a crop top, so it's like her arms are warm, but her stomach and midsection is very cold.
Yes, exactly. Still gotta show off the six pack or whatever.
Yeah, the abs. You gotta like it. But yeah. So I guess there is a little bit of cheesecake in Bruce Timm's drawings, although I don't know if Bruce Timm drew this one. This might be someone else. But I will say I didn't really notice too much of an art difference. This one did have the most different art. And I think you can see it in like the reaction of Bruce Wayne later on. Sometimes his facial expressions were like, what? But I didn't mind it. I thought, it was pretty much on point as far as character models and stuff. But anyway, so they're trying to figure out what to do. They're bored. They're like, we're going to, in fact, Ivy's pissed off because Christmas means, that trees are dying because of Christmas trees and stuff. And Harley just wants to celebrate. Like, she's like, can't we get a Christmas tree? And Ivy's like, no, aren't you Jewish? Like, why do you want trees? So they decide to have some fun this night, and they go out, and I guess Bruce Wayne is having some kind of party with a lot of eligible bachelorettes, eligible young ladies that go to, I guess, try to, like, they rush him when he walks into the room. And one of them in particular, like, comes up from behind him and gives him a big kiss on the lips and then walks out quickly. And Bruce is like, what? So he follows that specific one outside. And then the woman actually is in a limousine outside of this area. I don't know if this is his house or if this is like some restaurant or something, or like some ball that he was at. But either way, he goes to the limousine, and the woman's like, why don't you come in, big boy? And then as he opens the door, he sees it's Ivy and Harley there. But of course, they don't know that he's Batman. They just think they've gotten Bruce Wayne under Ivy's spell, because she has like this lipstick that she's used in the animated series a couple times to influence men, to make them do her bidding. I assume you were aware of that, right, John? You've seen the animated series enough, right?
Oh yeah. I'm like, I can't say that I remember every episode, obviously, but I remember that about her. And, that we've kind of seen that before too. And in some other comics we've read, she has different lipsticks for different things that she's, again, that's part of her background. And she was a scientist. Was it
a botanist?
botanist. Yeah, I almost said phlebotomist.
That's
A
blood.
botanist. Yeah. And so yeah, I always like that that's still incorporated in her villain character. So yeah, that was fun. I like that, all the girls are running up to Bruce under the mistletoe, right? But then Ivy gets the drop on it, and because it's brainwashing, to control and whatnot, to that, well, not brainwashing, but like to put some kind of control on him, it kind of was like, oh, okay, well, now he has to go along with
I guess it's a type
say.
of brainwashing because he does not want to do it, but like he's compelled to do it.
Yeah.
So whatever that is, it's against his will. He's definitely not on board with this. I do like, they have to say like in the thing, like Bruce is thinking, why, what? I can't stop myself, as like the girls invite him in, and then they're like, cause you're under her spell, So it's just for any kids who might not have known that that's the thing she does with her lipstick. But then one of my other things is like Harley says like, hit it, Jeeves, to the driver. And he's like, yes, ma'am, because... And then we see like a kiss, like a lipstick kiss on his cheek. So she like kissed the driver too, so he'll take him everywhere. I thought that was funny. It made me laugh. And then we proceed to and I would be just like this. This would be the most annoying fucking night ever because I hate shopping. I hate shopping more than almost anything. And basically this issue is Bruce Wayne having to walk around and be like the money, like the wallet for these two girls buying everything in this mall.
Oh yeah, they're going on a shopping spree, and they've got the most eligible bachelor billionaire in town. And I do say like the next couple panels of like going through like basically like a movie or montage of buying things. It's pretty on point and fun.
Oh yeah, I think there's a couple of. There's at least one episode of Batman Animated where this kind of thing happens. But I do love that they make Bruce carry everything too. So it's literally like, you're going shopping with your wife or whatever, and you just got to walk around behind her carrying everything that she buys.
You and I must have different shopping experiences.
Very much so, apparently. Anyway, so... Bruce eventually starts being able to like fight back a little bit, and they can tell. So Harley's like, "Look, give me that lipstick, and I'll kiss him again." And as she's about to kiss him again, he falls backward into an elevator that is out of order, but it has like an open door because they're working on it. And he falls into the shaft, and they think he died, and they're like, "Oh well." And that's one thing I love about this issue. So, over the years, they've kind of watered down Ivy and Harley to be like anti-heroes, so they're not really like villains anymore. They're not evil. They don't really do too much evil stuff. Not Poison Ivy has kind of got her groove back in that way with her newer series, but for a while both of them were kind of like, well, we can't make them do bad stuff because they're like a couple and we want to see them have fun but like not hurt people. So they kind of took away all the teeth. And one thing I liked about this issue, and this is like a kid's issue, is they're like, oh my God, we killed him. And they're like, oh, well, we were going to kill him anyway. No loss. So like, they're like, we have his credit cards. It's fine. So I like that they like just murder him. They don't really care.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, well, we'll move on.
Yeah. No, of course they didn't really murder him. He was, I guess, snapped out of the love spell enough to come to and, catch himself somehow. Maybe he's got like his batarang or something with a rope that he could throw up and catch himself in the elevator shaft. So he doesn't die. But he does come back as Batman as they leave the mall and drive away. He follows them to a toy store and has a big fight with them there. And he's still kind of out of it. So he's like not... He wins, of course, but he also like is kind of getting beat up a little bit by the ladies. But he eventually does topple the tree on top of them. And I thought this was like a fun ending to this thing, to this little story.
Yeah, it's cute that, they get caught by I like the endings of toppling the gigantic Christmas tree on him. And it's like, you get your Christmas tree, Harley, or whatever, but then also, Ivy stopped by a dying tree or so. It's fun.
Yeah. And then we get the next story, which is, I think, supposed to be like it's the best one, I think, out of all these stories.
It's exactly who you think should be in a Batman Christmas story. And yes,
yeah.
I'm right.
It's also the cover. We didn't say with it. The cover is Mr. Freeze. and you were hoping for a Mr. Freeze story sometime. But so we this one's called White Christmas. It takes place on Christmas Eve, and we see Mr. Freeze is broken out of Arkham, and they don't know why, but he stole a bunch of equipment, and it's like weather changing equipment that can make it snow. And as Batman comes out of Arkham, I guess it's been like an unusually warm Christmas. So he comes out and he sees it snowing. So obviously, Mr. Freeze is doing his thing with his machine. So Batman follows everything that happens. Also, we get like a nice breakdown of Mr. Freeze's origin and like why he would do what he's doing right now. Because we learn, he had a wife, and that's why he created this cryo stuff. And then, his wife's body was lost in an explosion, but he got maimed by the chemicals, and that's how he became Mr. Freeze. So, nice little one-page breakdown of Batman thinking about Mr. Freeze's origin for the reader. That's
just
nice.
In case.
Just in case. I like it though. Like that's just like fun. I'll even read it. I read it and I was like, yeah, like, because it's just like, yeah, it's like, if you didn't know, you didn't know, and now you do. So, but anyway, we do get so obviously Mr. Freeze hasn't done anything but make it snow, which I don't think is against the law. Maybe I'm wrong, but he broke out of Arkham, so I guess that's like against the law. But we do get a little bit of peril of like what Mr. Freeze is doing besides what his snow might be doing that could cause damage or harm. So we see like a car careening out of the way, like it's speeding, but it's sliding on the road because it's too slippery. And it almost hits a mom and a daughter as they're walking across, but Batman saves them. And then the guy gets out of the car and he's like, "What are you doing, you piece of junk?" And Batman's all pissed at him and tells him to get some chains on his tires. And then Batman goes to the Gotham Cemetery, where he sees a police car that is completely frozen in ice, and he tries to unfreeze the car with a flamethrower, but it doesn't quite work, so he has to break it out with a batarang. He breaks out the police officer inside, who's very cold, but he's not dead yet. He's just kind of icy, and we're going to assume that he didn't die because this is a kid's comic. So
yeah, no,
yeah, but he points out to Batman. He's like, "He's over there," and so Batman goes over, and we see Mr. Freeze using this big gun that's like making the weather cold. And so Batman throws, and this is in the cemetery. So he like hits Batman with the gun, and Batman flies against one of these giant tombstones, and he looks up, and it's his parents' tombstone. And he's very angry about that, and like he knocked the wreath off when he hit it. I guess he put a wreath up there for them, and it fell down, so he got very mad, and he had time to put it back up. He was like, "How dare you knock my parents' wreath off?" But yeah, so he throws some batarangs into the gun, and he says if it'll backfire if I fire this, but I'll take the chance, or I guess this is Mr. Freeze saying it'll backfire if I take a shot, but I'm willing to chance it. And so he shoots, and it does explode, and it looks like Mr. Freeze is pretty banged up, like his helmet is cracked and stuff. And then as Batman's about to hit him with his own air tank, or with his own cryo tank, I guess, he looks at Mr. Freeze, and he's like, "Why did you do this? Like, it's Christmas, so I'll give you a chance. Why did you do this, Freeze?" And Mr. Freeze says, he points to a tombstone in the cemetery, and it says, "Nora Freeze, beloved wife." And he goes over to it, and he says, "We were married 10 years ago on this day, and it was snowing, and I wanted it to be the same as when we were married, so she wouldn't be sad tonight." And then Batman helps him up, and they walk away together. It's very touching.
It is, yeah. Again, Mr. Freeze is such a perfect. I mean, it always comes back to that for him, obviously, but it is like that, I get why Mr. Freeze is a villain, and you don't always feel like anger at the end. It's like, he just loved his wife so much.
Yeah. That's all it was.
So,
he's mad because he was trying to save his wife and she died, and fuck you guys for doing that. So, his origin in the animated show, that was like a new origin for him. That was not his origin before. I can't think of a better origin for the man,
No, it's a super tragic origin, and it makes for a good villain, but one you sympathize with a bit. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, he was always my favorite villain in the show. I just loved his design and everything too. So cool.
Oh,
And
yeah.
his voice, the like, it's so cold, like the robot kind of inflection on it too was fucking fantastic.
Oh yeah, like because he's so cold and void of human emotion now, or whatever. So
yeah.
And I will say I love the animated series. I think this design of Freeze the best. Like they've had other interpretations of it.
Oh, this is the best by far. Yeah.
But where it's like it looks like he's a snow globe head. I love that design of like his head in a dome. It's so cool.
That and like kind of like the Art Deco like 40s robot costume he's got on and stuff too. Like it works so well. It's so good. But yeah. So then we got one last story. It takes place on New Year's Eve. We see the Joker has stolen. He broke into was it like a research facility on like sound, and he stole a bomb that's like a sound bomb, and anybody who's in the blast radius will just die from like, I assume their head exploding or something from like sound waves being extremely hard on their eardrums.
That's the way they made it sound. Like there's special muffs, and if you're not wearing them, basically like you're gonna die. So I assumed your head would pop,
like Scanner style, where it's just like
yeah, and it's the Joker, so obviously that would also be funny to him. So
right, yeah, that's like a bunch of poppers going off on New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah,
yeah. So he gets the bomb. Joker gets the bomb. He brings it to Gotham Square, which is basically like Times Square, right? And so the streets have thousands of, tens of thousands of people are lining the streets around this area. So it's very bad. And then Batman's like, of course he's going to go there. So Batman solves it, goes to this place, but Joker's one step ahead of him because he's like, of course Batman is going to know me if he just sees my face. So I'm going to pass out masks, Joker masks, to everybody on the street. So Batman will be confused. It'll be like, where's Waldo kind of a scenario. I did notice a weird coloring problem. I don't know if you saw this, but on this page where Batman shows up and they're handing out the masks, Batman isn't wearing a shirt. They like did flesh color for his chest.
Oh yeah, on that one panel. That's true.
Yeah,
I
but
didn't
it's
know
supposed to be gray, or it's supposed to be, whatever his suit color is. So I thought that was funny.
I didn't notice that at first until now. I definitely see that. The other thing I was going to say about this is like, is it just because everyone's drunk? Because I don't understand Gotham. They know the Joker's a villain, and like it looks like Joker's face. They're putting on these masks, and it's like, are this just because they're drunk and they're like, "Ooh, free mask"? I
assume so. People are dumb. That's we'll go with that.
I guess that's true. Yeah, we should. People are going to do what people are going to do, I guess.
Yeah.
So, it just seems like the people of Gotham should be aware of Joker's like antics a little bit. You're like, wait a minute, why are they handing out these clown masks on New Year's Eve?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, you would think so, but they're not. So, and of course, Joker's bomb is planned to go off, in time with the New Year countdown. So it's like 10, 9, 8, 7, right? So Batman eventually figures out where Joker is, and he goes to fight Joker. And as the countdown is happening, I loved this actually. Joker is his own foil because he actually gets a one-up on Batman. He hits Batman with a giant champagne cooler, like ice bucket thing, and so Batman's like, oh, like I can't get up, and then he begins to punch Batman while he's on the ground, and Joker, like on the count of 8, he's like popping the champagne and he hits himself. I guess maybe because the Batman does kick him, but I thought it was that Joker actually just hit himself in the face with the cork as it popped out. But I guess now I'm looking at it again. Batman does kick him in the stomach at the same time. So I guess he leans forward.
It's still him for going to open the bottle already. Like he only knocked Batman down a couple times, and like how many times has he tussled with Batman? Come on now.
Right. So, it's a kid's comic. But I did enjoy that like the cork pops him in the eye, and that's what like kind of we see like red stuff coming out of his eye. I'm assuming he's bleeding from his eye. It seems like that would be a pretty hard shot to the eyeball, I would think, cork. But Batman takes the bottle that's like bubbling out now of champagne, and he he puts it all over the bomb mechanism. It zaps it out so it doesn't work. And then Joker pulls out a gun and he shoots Batman. And then as he's about to he shoots him in the arm. And then as Batman's on the ground recovering from that, there's a giant bell that's coming down as part of this thing. And I guess whatever the fighting that they were doing made this giant bell fall down, and it falls on Joker. And he starts, I thought this was funny because he's laughing as he's about to shoot Batman in the head. And then he just goes, ha, as he sees the bell about to fall on him. So yeah, he gets crushed by the bell. When I say crushed, his arm is completely crushed by this bell. And they mentioned it on the outside, later on, because after all this, January 1st, and 1 in the a.m., we see at a diner, Commissioner Gordon comes in and he's waiting for someone, he's getting some coffee, and the owner of the diner is like, hey, you think he'll be here tonight? And Gordon's like, yeah, I heard he had some trouble with the Joker earlier, but he'll be here. And then we see Batman come in, and I guess every year on the New Year's Eve, or after New Year's, I guess, the two of them have a nice cup of coffee and say hopefully next year will be great.
We stopped a lot of crime this year. We stopped a lot of the same criminals this year, but but hopefully next year will be better.
Yeah, so they have a nice little cup of Joe, and that's it. That's Batman that, of course, does his disappearing act while Gordon isn't paying attention for a second, and then Gordon walks out and says Happy New Year to you, Batman. So yeah, that's how this whole issue ends. It's the very end of it. So yeah,
I do love that Batman pays, because if he just stiffed him and he was he's secretly Bruce Wayne, that would be really shitty. He always does that to me, and he stiffs me for the bill.
Always, every year. Yeah, what would you give it, John? What'd you think?
It was a lot of fun. It's Batman, and it's Batman in an animated series vein, so it felt very nostalgic. And
well, out of the 4, did you have a favorite one?
I think that Mr. Freeze was definitely my favorite one, and then probably Mr. Freeze, Clayface, Joker, and then Harley and Ivy.
I'm the same. That's my order as well.
They're all fun, and I like Harley and Ivy. I like those silly montages, and we're going shopping, whatever. It's in so many movies and cartoons and whatnot. But yeah, as far as for the theme of Christmas, that's how that all felt, or winter, that all felt good to me. And yeah, so I really enjoyed it. Again, Mr. Freeze, you don't do better than that for holiday villain for me. And then Clayface, I liked it was fun that it was a bunch of kids that all formed together to Clayface. I forgot that he could do multiple people actually.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun. Yeah. And then again, all of the art is great. There's only, like you said, that one with Harley and Ivy was a little different, and mainly in Bruce's expressions, his eyes would look a little off. But overall, it looked great. It felt great. All the stories were fun. Never a dull moment in this one. So I would give this one a 9, honestly.
Nice. I'm going to give this one an 8 as well. I enjoyed all the stories. I say as well because we gave the one for our second episode, which was the Larfleeze one. We gave that an 8. So I'm going to give this one an 8 too. You give it a 9, but I think I enjoyed all of these. As a kid, I think I would have liked these maybe a 9 or a 10, but I think they were just fun. They were solid. I think of course, the Mr. Freeze one is the one that hits the hardest and is the most touching or whatever. So I just enjoyed that. But Paul Dini writing Batman, all of them are good. He doesn't hit it out of the park like a 5 out of 5 every time, but it's always a 4 out of 5 at least. So none of these were terrible or anything. So, but it was for me, it was a solid 8 as a whole issue, and I loved it. So, yeah. So with that, we hope you guys liked this Christmas special, and we did another one. If you would be interested in joining our Patreon, we did one just for Patreon members. That one's going to be Hitman number 22. So that one's a little bit more on the adult side, the less... it's more like what would the Punisher do if he was Christmas time kind of thing, which I believe we've done Punisher Christmas issues, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We did a Punisher Christmas the last year, year before. We'll post some links to them in our on our channel and feed, so you guys can take a look if you want to go back, and if you're really in the holiday spirit and just want to plow through the end of the year with some fun holiday stories. But the Hitman 22 is cool. Going into it, I didn't know that it was actually in this. It takes place in Gotham. It's in Batman's neck of the woods, so that's kind of fun. It could be a continuation from this if you want a little more adult themed.
Yeah, it's like DC's Punisher is Hitman. So like, and it's written by Garth Ennis, who also wrote Punisher for Marvel, and so it's just kind of like the most cynical, adult, irreverent version of a Christmas story you could possibly have for a superhero comic. So.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, if you'd like to check that out and all the exclusive episodes we have, and also be able to vote on what we do for our second episode each month, you can go to patreon.com/Planes Comic Book, all one word, and you can join one of our tiers there and become a member. Just so you all know, we also have a free membership there, and there will be some new podcasts coming out. I'm doing a Swamp Thing podcast, much like the Hellblazer one, except it's going to be on the free tier there. So if you want some free kind of audio book versions of comics, specifically Swamp Thing, I'm going to read every Swamp Thing issue in that audiobook style. So and first it's coming out on Patreon. I think on the 1st I'm going to release it. So for the new year, we're going to have a new free podcast on the free on all the tiers, but the free tier as well.
It's just for people who sign up for our Patreon, but it is absolutely free if it's for every level. So if that sounds fun, if you want to get into a little more of the supernatural side of DC, Matt is going to get those Swamp Thing. And again, listen to him do all the characters is always fun. So definitely check it out. Patreon.com/Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. All one word. We appreciate you signing up. We should thank our patrons actually too.
Oh yeah. Thank you patrons: Hoku, Otaku, Mike, Christian, Matthew, Kyla, Joseph, Kalia, Kevin, James, and Craig. You guys are awesome. We appreciate you all. You keep the lights on and you make this all really fun and keep us going. So thank you again. Happy holidays to everybody. And to all the patrons, of course. And we will see you guys on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.